President Jacob Zuma is not giving up on having corruption and fraud charges against him thrown out of court. His legal team has put the brakes on what could have been pre-trial proceedings today to appeal the court's decision to dismiss his bid for a permanent stay of prosecution. Siphamandla Goge has been tracking that story for us. He joins us now from the Pietermaritzburg High Court. And Siphamandla, we're hearing several legal analysts saying there may well be a long road ahead. I think the former president said it in so many words. Things will proceed from today as they have done over the past 14 years.
Yes, indeed. He urged his supporters to stick with him, saying they will have to come back to court over and over again, saying we will be back here over and over again. It's going to be a very lengthy legal process. Let's just remind our viewers that it transpired in court today that the former president will apply for a leave to appeal that permanent stay of prosecution judgment, whereby he lost his court bid to have those graft charges permanently stayed. Also, it transpired in court that his co-accused, which is the French arms company Thales, has not indicated their next course of action. Their lawyer telling the court that they need to take further instructions, but also they are likely to exercise their rights as well. But former President Jacob Zuma is clear that he will be appealing this judgment. When he addressed his supporters, he said this is a political witch hunt. It's something he's been saying since 2005, that he's a victim of a political conspiracy. He says he will appeal the judgment because the three judges were not clear on what grounds they declined him that permanent stay of prosecution. And he also cited the issue of the spy tapes, the recordings, saying those ones, he still maintains that there was a political conspiracy. Interestingly, the court did find that even though there were those recordings, that didn't stop the former president from ascending to the highest office of the republic, or of being the president of the republic. They say, yes, it may have prejudiced him, but it did not stop him from ascending to the highest office in the land. So therefore, he has to face this trial. He has to clear his name. Our viewers would recall that his argument when he came to this court in May centered around two things, basically: the delays in the prosecution as well as this political conspiracy.
And some serious comments made by the former president against the judiciary, saying that his rights have been set aside in this case. And he says justice will be done in the long run. And when that happens, when this case is eventually set aside, his enemies will use the judiciary to think up some other plot against him.
He's convinced that his political enemies are all out to get him. He seems to have lost faith in the judiciary. He did say that, yes, his constitutional rights have been violated, and he said he's within his rights, by the way, to appeal this judgment. He feels that the judges erred when they decided not to grant him that permanent stay of prosecutions. He's of the view that he might be lucky if he takes the matter further, which is interesting because this is a unanimous judgment from the full bench of three judges at the Pietermaritzburg High Court. So whatever he does, he may decide to appeal, of which he has done. He will have to file his papers on the 1st of November. The arguments will be on the 22nd of November. But I think the biggest question here is that are there prospects of success in his application? Or if he decides to appeal, if he's granted that leave to appeal, will he succeed? Will the upper court find differently from the lower court? That remains to be seen.
Siphamandla, still, people coming out in their numbers, as they always do whenever the former president does appear in court. No different today, but there did seem to be a bit of a dwindling of the numbers there outside the court as he was addressing those crowds. What do you think?
Indeed, and that is also backed by a statement from the organizers of his supporters, and one of them is Bishop Vusi Dube, who spoke to my colleague Xoli Mngambi earlier. He did use that term, that numbers are dwindling. He says many people are scared to come out now to show their support to the former president. There were no political heavyweights here. The only politician who was mandated by the Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal was Gwazim Shengu, the outgoing ANC Youth League chairperson in KwaZulu-Natal, who is a PEC member. And another political heavyweight is a former deputy speaker in the provincial legislature, Mishek Khadebe, who continued to show support to the former president. Other than that, there were no other notable politicians, and even ordinary people. The numbers were not as great as compared to his previous court appearances.
All right, well, thanks very much for that. Just giving us a sense of how things unfolded there. That's my colleague, Sipho Mandlago.